This Bubba Exotic Motorsports production is brought to you in part by Blog Talk Radio, host of our #1 rated internationally syndicated automotive podcast as heard on the Bubba's Motorsports Network, and by Schumacher Chevrolet, SchumacherAuto.com, Schumacher.com, SchumacherAuto.com. Good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live from inside the main facility here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports in beautiful, sunny South Florida. Good morning, Bub. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing really good so far,
How
man.
is everything, man?
Cruising along already, just starting this Monday off great, and I thought it was going to be actually a pretty crappy day. We leave the house, it was pitch black from our time change.
Time change, man.
And it was raining, so I was like, man, this is going to be a lousy day, dude. This is going to be a terrible start. And sure enough, we get here, open the doors, and boom, sun hits us.
How many of you out there forgot to roll your clocks forward and got an extra hour of sleep, or just like, oh my God, the day's slipping away? How many do you think that happened to?
I didn't do it.
How about little man?
He didn't do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we all know him. We love him. The ladies, man. Diesel joins us live. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he's here with us. Hey, Bub, we're here with the Unity Jag. We've started doing the suspension replacement on it. We did 2 episodes last week, one with Rolly, one of the reps there, our rep here. And we started talking a little bit about this.
Yep.
The long and short of it was you found that the air ride system had failed on this car. On the left-hand side, the bag had literally come unsealed.
Yep.
Is what had happened on the bottom side, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's right.
And because of that, you decided to remove the air ride system, which you will most often do on some of these cars, so that you can set the stance properly in accordance with the wheel and tire package that you've picked out for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's, right there on that point, the left front, we discussed it a little bit on our last videos, which if you guys didn't see them, go to our website at bubbasexoticmotorsports.com. You can see all of our old previous links there, and which will take us over to your YouTube page. Follow us there, subscribe to us, and then all that stuff will go to your emails every time we do it, which is really cool. I love getting it, and I get it while I'm filming. So
Yeah,
it's
please subscribe to the YouTube
like I almost
channel.
want to watch myself while I'm talking, while I'm on the live, while I'm on the live on my phone, and I'm watching myself at the same time on live on.
I'm dizzy. By the way,
saying,
did you
it's all
see,
connected.
Bud, did you see that between our podcast, just the last 48 hours, and Facebook, there were over 5,000 views of this week's show?
That's pretty insane,
That's
dude.
amazing,
Over
man.
48 hours is pretty good. So
That's amazing.
That's awesome. We're having a lot of fun with
It's
it.
why we're the #1 rated internationally syndicated automotive podcast in the world. And I worked yesterday, Bub, a little bit. We'll return to the Unity Jag in a minute. I worked a little bit yesterday developing new programs, other podcasts that are going to follow under us on the Blog Talk Radio, Bubba's Exotic Motorsports Network.
Yep,
So,
super excited.
I found a really cool diesel show we're going to ask to join us.
All right, well, let's see how it goes
It's
then.
pretty neat. I was also looking for female motorsport shows and English Bulldog shows. I didn't do too well with those.
No.
But we'll find them. So go ahead, Bub. Take us up to date here. I can see the calipers all cleaned up. I see the new Unity strut has been installed here.
Yep.
And I see you've got a couple pieces of coil spring in your hand.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, one of the main reasons, again, for those of you who didn't see our last shows that we did, one of the main things that we like to do, especially on a lot of these higher end, usually in the European market with the Jags and Mercedes, a lot of the Cadillacs as well, the Lincolns too, not even in the European side of it, but just the higher end of those. A lot of those cars that came from that earlier period, late 90s, early to mid 2000s, the air ride components on them, they always failed. It's just plain and simple, they failed. They got age on them, they got wear on them. Right now, they're already almost 10 to 15 years old, depending on what that is, and that could be huge mileage. That's a lot of wear and tear on one bushing, one set of seals, one set of joints. And that's very much so the case with this 2004 Jag XJR that we've got in the facility right now. The same thing went down. The left front side had collapsed, which causes, when the left front goes down, then the front system in the air ride will start leaking down because there's an air line that's leaking or there's a bag that's leaking, something that's gone wrong. So we had an air suspension fault. So now the front of the car was completely down on the ground. There's no way to drive it. You can't, you don't want to destroy your fender lips on the edge, your inner fender liners, the edging of your tires for the most part. It can get very expensive over a small piece that's gone bad in a very short period of time. And that's what was starting to happen here with this car in a matter of, literally 5-10 miles. Like it was just.
You don't want to even move the car in and out of a trailer.
Not at all, because it literally sits on, this one actually already did a little bit of damage on the inside of the fender liner, just because when air ride drops, it drops to a point where it gets so low that the tire literally is sitting, and the only reason the car is being held up is because it's sitting on the tire itself. And that's where we're at on the front of this one. The rear was still up, but you could tell it was starting to have some effect as well as coming down. So we went ahead, Unity hooked us up with a complete air-to-coil conversion kit on this car. It's part of their Elite line, which is one of their best high-end lines that they offer for like stock
Air
replacement
ditcher,
applications.
it's actually the air
Yep.
ditcher series.
So we got the kit. I've already installed the passenger front this morning here. I've actually done it 3 times, and the reason for that is, again, you mentioned that I like to set my stance, and that's part of the reason we pulled this car off of the air ride. It was, for this technology, for this time, it was sloppy. It really was. It was, you know, the car when you drove it, it never felt tight. It didn't snug to the road. You know, it wasn't the best quality there. Did it soak up bumps? It did, but it was a very sloppy handling characteristic. It just was. It
Especially
didn't
at
feel
highway
tight.
speeds.
It didn't feel tight at all.
Not like the new Mercedes or the new Jags or like that.
So now when you start taking into consideration, you know, the air ride from that era, plus how sloppy it was, even in its mint condition form, and then you start weighing out that versus costs versus today's quality of product, you really start to see which way is a better way to go.
Sure, yeah.
And that's why we went with Unity's air-to-coil conversion kit. It's a complete package, front and rear. The whole kit was, what, about $2,000 or so? So
Very reasonably priced for
Very
everything you
reasonable,
got. With
right,
the
and-
modules, with the sprint, with everything.
Well, and that's what I was getting to, was by the time you start doing, you know, your left front bag, your right front bag, your left rear, your right rear, and trust me, if one's failing, they're all coming. So
Yep.
don't think that you just have one maybe that's possibly
That's right.
bad. They're all getting ready to go. If you have one that just
Right.
failed, especially as extreme as this did, you are getting ready to place all 4 in order. And it's literally, you know, 1,000 for that bag, 1,000 for this one, 1,000 for that one. So yeah, it's easier to do one at a time, but by the time you do that over the next 6 months,
It's
you've-
more cost
you've
effective
spent
to do
2
it at one
times
time.
the
Yeah.
amount, 3 times the amount,
Right.
because you're paying twice the labor, you're paying twice the cost on parts, you know, to get a full kit. And you're still, at the end of all of that, you're still gonna have the same quality ride and handling characteristics you did as if it were brand new again. So, which was, in this case, it was good, it was comfortable, but it was sloppy. It didn't snug the road like today's cars do. And this is a Jag XJR. You want it to handle and have the best looking stance, the best looking fitment, and the best handling characteristics you could possibly imagine.
So, Bub, let me ask you a little question. I see in your hand you've got a couple of pieces of coil spring.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You're not one who just takes something out of the box and bolts it on and goes down the road. You're very, very specific about your wheel and tire combinations sitting properly on the inner fender skirt and lining up beautifully. Your backside spacing being perfectly. By the way, we are doing a wheel and tire sale with Wheel Pros, our parent wheel company. Everything is 15% off. So you guys go out to buzzexoticmotorsports.com. Let us know through our sales account. We'll hook you up, or call us here at 561-748-2926. Kenny and the guys over there at Wheel Pros are ready to get that stuff in our hands and start kicking this sale off.
And by the way, that goes worldwide too. If you are anywhere in the
Yeah.
entire world, we can literally mount, balance. If you have tire pressure monitor systems, we can literally install them here. We can mount, balance, get these things programmed literally on a pallet and shipped to you wherever you are across the world. So you get them, open them up, and just bolt them right on. They are programmed, they're ready to
That's
go.
right.
The tire pressures are set. You just get in, literally you bolt them on and ride, and that's where it's at.
That's it. Go to the Wheel
Perfect
Pros
clearance.
website and give us a call. We'll take care of you. 15% off through this month, man.
So yeah, you know, you mentioned that I never take anything and just bolt it on straight out of the box. So very much so with this. Well, I always do in some sort of way, and what I would consider on this one, I did like a mock-up. So Unity designs these suspension systems to be direct fit, bolt-on replacement applications for everything you could possibly imagine. Every make, every model, anything that's got air, they've got a coil spring for
they
it.
do.
So we took their system, we bolted it on, I put the car down on the ground and saw what the stance of the car was. Now, for the average person, for the daily driver, it was beautiful. Set on right where it should sit. However, for the more high-end, the more custom wheel and tire, big brake kit, you know, that more aggressive look, the aggressive stance, I wanted to take it a step further. So what I did was I pulled the system back out of the car. I'll do it 2, 3, 4 times. I'll do it however many times it takes to get it set right, dead on where it should sit. So it has the looks of a modern Jag. Even though this is an 04, you can have that tighter stance like the newer ones have. The newer ones sit very, very close, tire to fender well. Because of today's spring technology, it's so much tighter, it's so tightly wound. The rate of it is very comfortable, but at the same point, you can set your cars much lower because they're so tight and they handle very, very well. That's exactly what I did here. I actually pulled the spring out. As you can see, I've got 2 sets of the coils in my hand. This is from this passenger front coil. So what I did was I take my factory cut where they have it, and I'll mark at halfway first. I'll go directly across and run a halfway. I'll run a quarter in between that, here and here, and I'll essentially just choose. Well, this one had enough room in between it. I figured, I mean, each one of these things, and this is kind of partially a tip out there for the guys who want to do it themselves. If you buy, whether it be through Unity or through iBox or through H&R, if you don't like that dead-on stance, there's no problem with doing this at all. You're doing such a minor modification, you'll probably not notice a difference, especially if you're a guy that wants to sit a little lower to the ground anyways. So you take these things, we actually put the entire coil strut assembly on our spring compressor with safety in mind. Always wearing eyeglasses when you're working with springs.
Very important here. Bub has a very expensive Brannick coil spring compressor that is mounted to the cement wall to protect his eyes. Please, guys, be careful. Don't do this on the garage floor with coil spring compressors with cheap Chinese-made claws. They snap. There's a potential for trouble if you don't run things down perfectly even. I'm not being negative, but I'm being safe. And that's one reason we don't have errors or safety-related issues or people being hurt here at this facility.
Yep.
Safety, safety, safety.
So what I did was the very first thing, once I had this mounted on our spring compressor, I went ahead, collapsed it down, took the top nut off the strut mounting plate, removed the entire assembly and disassembled it. I marked my first setup, which this one I knew because of the height of this car. Again, I've already put it together once and assembled it to see where Unity had it sitting. They may have had it perfect. I may have not had to do this. However, I wanted to bring the car down just a touch. So we had, before initial install, I probably had from the 6 o'clock point on the fender well to 12 o'clock on the tire, I had a good maybe 1 3/4 to 2 inches. That's actually pretty close to factory height on this car. That's where it sat. It was a fairly large gap, but it didn't look aggressive. So we wanted to add that stance.
And Bub, I wanted to preface, prior to this, you had installed an Asante wheel combination
Yep.
on this.
Yep.
So you knew exactly where you were going with this
Yep.
in mind.
Yep. So I went ahead, I pulled it all back out again, I disassembled it. I did my very first cut, I just went one coil off. I knew I wanted to come down a pretty good amount, at least an inch. So a full coil is usually going to get you about an inch. Sometimes 1 1/4 inches, sometimes 1.5 inches. Trust me guys, always cut less, and that's why I do quarter mark, half mark, 3/4 mark. Always cut less, because once you cut too much, you're done. You're buying another set of springs. So I took it all apart, cut one off, built it all back up and stuck it back in the car. It dropped me down just at that, at just about 1 1/4 inches, just off of this one coil off. Then from there, once you go from a tightly wound, you need to start going smaller on your cuts. So I did the first one at one full cut. I'll put this over here, which got me about 1 1/4 inches. And then what I did was stuck it all back in. I liked it. It looked good, but there was still room for improvement. You know, with the actual Asante wheel and tire combo that we had on this car, it's a very nice 20-inch staggered setup, 8.5 in the front, 10.5 in the rear. So it's got a nice aggressive width to it. Same thing that the brand new Jags come with. Same exact stagger, same exact fitment.
Right.
So it has that real tight look. We want to make it have that tight look. So I pulled the system back out again, and what you can see is I actually did, this was from our original cut. I did another quarter mark, and then I actually did a half coil cut, because I knew I wanted to go down another 1/2 inch or so, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. I had that room to play with. So right now I'm sitting at one install originally, pulled it out, did another install, pulled it out, did another install, which is our final install. So 3 times to get this right, but now I know 1.5 coils cut off of this coil spring from Unity is exactly where I wanted this car to sit. And it's really not going to affect the way the car handles and rides off of these small pieces.
And now, Bub, based on that cut, because we learned that 1 coil equals 1 inch.
Sometimes, give or take.
But as you get into that first coil, you need to be careful here because this is a bit softer. So
Yeah.
you have to be cut a little less
Right.
to be sure.
Right, so these, for example, like once you get past, anytime you hold a coil spring in your hand, your top 1 or 2 coils are fairly close together. They're not tapered at an angle like
Correct.
this, what most people see throughout the entire spring, a very far spread. Well, your top 2 being closer together, you can just go ahead and just probably cut off 3/4, 1 coil to start, if you're trying to drop, a good inch. I mean, most springs, depending on what you're doing. Now, aftermarket springs that are already lowered, you don't want to start that much. Start half, maybe start quarter. Small increments just to get them going, because those springs have already been built and designed to be dropped lower. This was built to be stock height application, so I'm technically lowering the car off of what they sent. So you start big on the first one, go on 1 coil is what we did on the stock spring here. Then I dropped, once I got to that next one, I wanted to go another 1/2 inch or so. I still had plenty of room to wiggle with. So I went with another half coil. I could see in the actual coil bend, and just from experience, I knew a half coil would get me a little bit closer, probably not take it over the top, but I knew a full coil would be way too much. That would put the tire literally at the fender well, which would be too much. If you had a full load of passengers in the car, if you hit if you were going left or right real hard, and you hit a pothole through the way, you would literally hit this part of the fender. You don't want to do anything like that. So start small. Once you get into that second coil down, you'll literally notice the coil spring will go from, you know, your top coil being more horizontal like this to more of a stretch like this. So a quarter is going to get you a lot. That's a pretty big amount to bring that car down. So start small when you get on the second layer of coils.
So, Bub, the Unity coils, coil replacement that we received from Rolly and the group over there, unityap.com, it was how was it as a direct fit replacement?
From a bolt-on standpoint, there was absolutely zero issues with this kit. When I took, again, I've put this thing in here 3 times already. This is my final. I know exactly where I want the car stance now. 1.5 coils off. So that's me from a designer and builder standpoint. Absolutely no, do you not have to do that with this kit out of the box. You take this kit out of the box. Again, this is an OE replacement setup to remove the factory air ride and install a complete coil strut assembly, which will be the rest of the life of the car. That's it. Like, you'll never have to put another expense into this coil strut assembly unless something fails or breaks, if the strut starts leaking, something like that, which is going to be another 100,000, 150,000 miles before any of that even starts to happen. So this is an expense that lasts a very long time. From an install standpoint, it's beautiful. It was literally, you take the 4 nuts off the top. Their instructions that they actually give you are...
That's what I was going to ask you. How were the instructions?
3 pages deep. Again, I mean, this wasn't even something that I had to really read the instructions, but I did to see...
You do over everything.
I did, just to see the way that they needed the install done, you know, what kind of specs or tech tips they have on their kits. And it was beautiful. It was, you know, 1 nut at the bottom, 4 nuts at the top, unplug the electronic sensor from the factory one, remove the air line, and remove the air strut assembly, and then go ahead and stick in your new one. If I didn't do any more cutting, this is in and out in about an hour. I've spent about 2 hours on it because I've gone in and out a few times. But now I know when I do the other side, I'll probably be 30 minutes because I know right away 1.5 coils, cut it off, stick the new one in, and I'm done.
Will you, excuse me, will you apply the same measuring cut to the back? Now you know it's a coil and a half. Can you just cut the back now and say, I'm going to
No.
go with the, are you going to measure the back as well?
No, so that's actually a really good question, especially for a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there. I chose to cut a coil and a half off the front to get this car, and again, we'll do a follow-up so you guys can see
Tomorrow
exactly
will be the
where this thing
follow-up
is stance. So at 1.5 coils cut off the front, you have to remember this front spring rate is totally different than what the rear is, and especially this goes
Correct.
with 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. That's why when you order these things, they'll say, is it front-wheel drive, is it all-wheel drive, if it's a, you know, Subaru maybe, or, you know, any sort of all-wheel drive platform. But anytime that you're doing these things, your spring rate where your engine is mounted, where a lot of your weight is going to be totally different than the rear. The rear, I may not even have to cut.
That's right.
They may have it set perfect on the rear. So again, I take it out of the box, I'm going to stick it in, lower the car down, move it around, drive it, get everything to settle down, and see exactly where it sits. If I need to change it, I'll pull them back out, and I'll start by doing maybe a half a coil, just depending on what I'm thinking there and how far I need to go.
But one of the things that people should know as well, this is a very scientific thing that you're doing. It requires a lot of math. It requires a lot of experience, okay? If you put the car down on the ground and you're seeing that you're still maybe about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch out, are you going to take it apart, or is there something we call allowing the springs to settle?
Right, so like right here, this is, again, I'm a coil and a half off. I have right now, I can just barely get my index finger and a portion of my middle finger between 12 o'clock of the tire and 6 o'clock of the fender lip. So just going in right here from the side, I would be going in just like this. I've got maybe 3/4 of an inch of room right there. A lot of guys like to tuck tight. I can get my cars pretty tight. I mean, I'm talking 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch, which is a beautiful fitment. I mean, the stagger, when you've got the staggered fitment wheel and tire combo, you're sitting the car that low. It's fully functional. The handling characteristics are insane. The car rides tight. Everything about it works. But you don't want to ever get to a point where you turn left, you turn right, and you're scrubbing. You're going to rip up
Correct.
the tires. The rear is much easier because you don't have to worry about that turning. As long as you've got your wheel and tire sitting perfect and you've got travel going up and down, you'll be okay in the rear and you're perfect. But your front is where you have to start again, which is why I'm on the front. I go here and then I'll match my rear stance to the front once I know I'm functional here. So there's a lot of, you know, little technical things and experience that you do. Start with your front, allow everything to settle. I'm at a coil and a half. I think right now I'm good where I'm going to be because I know in about a month, depending on how much this car gets moved around, this thing is going to, naturally it's going to settle down. These springs are fresh. They haven't been under weight of the car yet. They've just been built, designed, taken off, and put together on the coil strut assembly. So now, with the weight of the car sitting on it, it's going to settle a little bit. And sometimes you can get 1/4 of an inch, sometimes 3/8 of an inch, which may be just that small amount that you guys need to just do a, you know, one final adjustment. Because sometimes, again, you can take that too far. If you pull it back out and then you cut it, a month later, your car is sitting lower and it's scrubbing everywhere. So go shy and then just check it out. Do it a couple times if you need to.
And Bob, tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about whether this is an average installation for the do-it-yourselfer on with jack stands in the garage. I
Yeah.
think we'll talk about that. We know it's a direct fit replacement. It's
Yep.
a very, very marketable product out of Unity AP. It's bolt in, it's direct fit. I've taken still photography of you through the day as we've done this. And I've watched you ease right through this. We'll talk a little bit tomorrow about the installation of the module, the air ride module that makes it stop thinking that there's a problem with the air ride system now that you've converted it over to the spring setup.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, that's, you know, the kit when you purchase anything from Unity, everything from their air to coil conversion kits to anything from their just stock springs, their stock shocks or struts, or if you go all the way into their race ready line, which is something they're new in development on, which you can pretty much get a lowering spring or a custom spring for anything. You know, then you can really just take all of those components, bolt them on, you can enjoy it. You're going to get the benefit out of the product.
So, Bub, this is going to be a really busy week for us.
Yep.
We'll share with everybody. We've got this project to complete. On Wednesday, we're meeting with the good people from Cars and Coffee of West Palm Beach, probably the most exotic, unique cars and coffee in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, better than Dubai, California, anywhere. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. It's just the cars are here.
Yeah.
So Max, who's the owner of Monkey in Paradise Vodka, and his fiance are going to come here. We're going to meet with them 3:30 on Wednesday. We'll be there March 19th.
Okay.
Everybody come out and enjoy the event with us from 9 to 12. They're putting the Porsches up front.
Nice.
Right there.
Very nice.
The Bubba Edition Turbonex Porsches will be right up front on display there.
Nice.
On Thursday,
And same thing there. Hey,
You'll see those cars stand.
Those cars are sitting. Those were before we hooked up with the guys at Unity. Those are sitting on H&R springs all the way around on both of them. I'm telling you, I pulled those springs in and out 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
and the cars are sitting right on
They look
21
really
inch staggered.
good. They look really good.
They're sick.
On Thursday, Bub, I'm honored to announce that the Simmons Realty Group over there in Abacoa has voted us Entrepreneur of the Month.
Awesome.
So we'll be meeting with them, and Doug from In Jupiter Magazine will be here. They're going to be interviewing us and doing some filming with us, so we're very proud to bring you that as well.
Yep, really cool.
I understand that Miss Outlaw Boutique is going to be up for the following month, Entrepreneur of the Month. So
I feel like she's getting it every month over there.
How
I'm
about
telling
it,
you,
man?
she's on fire.
yeah, she is on fire, man. Ms. Outlaw Boutique. That's msoutlawnboutique.com. 561-660-6695. Call those guys over there for all your motorsports apparel needs and all the good stuff, man. They've got it
Yep.
over there, man.
Yep.
So, Bub, we're going to jump back into this thing and get it done. It's going to be an exciting week here at Bubba's. We will be up in Daytona this week. Miss Outlaw herself, Layla Von Athey, the famous magazine model, will be filming the Sons of Speed episode. Your friends Rick Petco and Billy Lane and all the Real XM from Buck Cherry, they're all up there right now.
Yep.
You're going to be
They're
up
all
there
up there
as
getting
well.
ready for the board track
Yeah,
race,
man. You guys will be up
Everybody.
there Friday. We're going to follow behind you on Saturday.
Well, I don't know why, because we're coming back Saturday, so he's all confused. Schedule's all
I am.
wrong.
Well,
I'm
you're
telling
leaving
you.
Friday night, I think. We're going up
Friday
early.
morning.
You're going Friday morning,
Yeah.
okay? We're going up early Saturday to participate with you guys, and then we'll come back Saturday afternoon like that. So it's going to be
All right.
going to be a long week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
But we're going to be bringing it all to you here as part of this family. We thank
All right,
you
well, I
for
got to
watching
get back
live.
on this thing. Come on.
Thanks for getting those ratings up there for us, ladies and gentlemen. We're super, super proud of all the listens and everything. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, BubbasExoticMotorsports.com. Miss Outlaw Boutique, that's MissOutlawBoutique.com. Let's get back on this thing, Bub. I see the ladies' man's ready for some lunch here just about now.
He's ready.
How about that?
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Bub, until tomorrow,
Just keep on doing it Bubba style.
make sure you step out to touch somebody's life in a positive way today. Open a door. Feed somebody who's hungry. Put some shoes on somebody who needs it. Pay somebody a compliment. It doesn't take anything to do that. Until then, keep on doing it, Bubba style. What can we do to help you here, Bub? Let's get this wheel up here. Let me grab one of these lugs here for you.